Thank you for coming to my channel, Compass Starlight. I headed out today for a wooded walk to get some messages from the forest. I paused at this view to take it in for a few moments, and then I proceeded onto the trail into the woods. The first thing I noticed was the new growth on the tips of the tree limbs that will be ready to burst with blossoms come spring. There also were several nuts and seeds scattered about in the beginning of the trail in abundance. I no longer bring things home with me, so I take pictures of most of the things that I encounter. The next thing that came across my view as I walked through the woods was the first bone. The 3 bones that I found were likely from cow, bovine bones that were cut, butchered, and meant for dogs, and these had been procured from neighboring properties and brought into the woods by some animal, gnawed away for the calcium in the bones, likely by mice, chipmunks, squirrels. The bones do symbolize strength as they give structure to the body, the form of the animal. And yet, as they're gnawed away, they provide nutrient to the animal that finds it. And yet still, it takes a long time to whittle away and dissolve this strength. The next thing I encountered of interest was the hole in this dead tree. Perhaps it was made by a woodpecker. It was made into a perfect hole, a perfect circle. And there's something about the way the light comes through it, something about that perfect circle, the sphere. There is a truth in that. There is something profound and wholesome about the circle. It is ever present in our lives, every day, and throughout our life, the circle of life, the cycle of life, the cycles we encounter, the cycles of completion, the cycles we begin anew, almost like this spiral of vine winding up this tree, and yet this one would suck the life out of this tree. Notice at the bottom, the lifeline to the vine has been cut. This is not a symbiotic relationship. This is a parasite, and it was taking over. It needed to be cut. A message to cut from your life all that holds back your growth. The next item that I encountered was this beautiful fallen tree that looked like a sculpture. It's hard to believe that this tree grew in such a fashion. It's all one piece. It seems to be pointing a direction. And it also looks a bit like an animal, like a goose or a swan. If it were, it's like it's leaning its neck around to prune its feathers, which is a reference to take care of yourself. This next tree, as it grew, with its own life force. It grew towards the rock. It leaned into the rock, as if it needed the stability. And yet, leaning into that rock weakened it. And because it was weakened, it did break. Where might you be leaning into things for support when in actuality, leaning into that support is weakening your own ambitions, your own strength? Where might you find that leaning into support is actually a form of enabling you and your actions or your behaviors, in turn weakening your own strength and fortitude? Then I came across this tale. It's not the first time I've seen a tale in the woods. Something caught this animal by the tail and discarded it. This is to say, don't let anything in life catch you by the tail. In this current energy we're moving through, try not to let your guard down so much so that something takes you by surprise. While at the same time, try your best to hold on to your ambitions. Go after what you want. Go after that new job, that new home, that new business venture. Be the one to catch the thing by the tail. And then we have here this little seed pod, the only one I encountered on my walk. It is called Lunaria. It is the silver dollar plant wildflower. This has always been a symbol for money, for abundance, something with which you can line your pockets. You have it coming to you. There were many white pebbles, and one thing I did not capture with a photograph was the water on the trail. As I proceeded, there were more and more of these little white pebbles in the water on the trail, and they became whiter and whiter and purer and purer. How can you bring purity into your own life? How can you cleanse yourself? How can you open your heart to new experiences? How can you live with a pure heart? The rut of the trail was so full of water that navigating it at times was like playing a game of hopscotch, shifting from side to side, jumping back and forth to keep from getting wet. You may find that you have to carefully navigate your path for the next few weeks. And in the end, there was this beautiful view that I get to share with you. Thank you for coming to my channel, Compass Starlight.